What's happened is this, Louise. We were told if you were working for someone, you could be furloughed, you could be sent home, and the government would pay 80% of your wages. It turns out there are thousands, tens of thousands of people who just left, as lots of people do. They just left the job, and they were in maybe a 3-week period before going to another job, and no one will say, yes, we're that person's employer.
It's not only that. If you've got a new job, they can't furlough you. So the government is making policy up literally day by day. I mean, you look at their website, there's 12 different policies already. And it's only by testing these policies do we realise they've been written and people get missed out. So you have to have been on payroll by the 28th of February. So if you have started a new job since the 28th of February, your employer cannot furlough you. Now, of course, the government says, or the advice is, well, go back to your old employer and ask them to furlough you. But when you leave an employer, you don't always leave that well. You could say, I'm leaving because my new employer is going to pay me 20% more wages, at which point you've then got to go back to your old employer and say, oh, could you have me back, please? And so this is the significant problem. I mean, there are gaps in government policy that they have come up with. We've seen today, just in the last 15 minutes, the Chancellor has come up and relaxed the rules for the £330 billion loan guarantee scheme because so many businesses were trying to get this scheme and finding they couldn't, and there was all problems and the banks weren't letting them get on the scheme. So the government has now to come back and rewrite the rules. So that's what many are hoping for.
Thank you. Let's just take some calls. So we must hear from callers here. Storm.
So we're going to speak to Phoebe from London, and you've got a question for Louise, do you?
Go on, Phoebe.
Hi, yes. So I was meant to start my new job on the 23rd of March. Unfortunately, I had my contract terminated. They couldn't take me on anymore because there wasn't going to be enough work. And obviously, from the government furlough scheme, because I wasn't on their payroll, I actually wasn't eligible for them to furlough me either. So I just really want to ask, sort of, what can I do? What support is there for me?
By anybody else before the 28th of February?
Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, Louise, didn't hear that. I'm so sorry.
Were you employed by anyone else before the 28th of February?
Yeah, so I left my old employer on the 13th of March.
Okay.
Have you contacted your old employer?
I have sent them an email, but so far they've ignored it.
Do you have a good relationship with your old boss?
Yeah, my old line manager. I've got a good relationship with her.
Have you got her phone number?
Yeah.
Why don't you call her?
It's good advice. It's good advice. Phoebe, good luck.
Yeah,
I'll just move on because I want to get through calls here. Storm, lots of people in this situation. It's on Twitter. If you look up the hashtag New Start Furlough, it's a big thing. Storm.
We're going to speak to Katie now from Hampshire. And what's your question for Louise, Katie?
Hi, I started my job on the 2nd of March. I left my previous employer to go to a competitor, and I was off their books on the 27th of February. So I missed out by 4 days. I'm just wondering, is there any help? Because at the moment, I'm a bit lost on what to do. Universal credit is obviously not, so much far out from the 2,500 that the government are offering. Even my employer's stuck on what to do.
Okay, let's just go to Louise.
So, are you currently still working for your new employer?
I'm on unpaid leave at the moment.
Right. So this is the problem. Now, I could say the Chancellor may change the rules. He has done that today with the government loan guarantee for business. He's had so many complaints that it's not working properly. He's had to change the rules. I would suggest you speak to your MP and anybody else in this hashtag New Starters Furlough should do the same thing. Encourage the Chancellor to change the rules.
Hang on, sorry, Katie, what you've done that, have you?
I've contacted my MP. I've hashtagged the new furlough starter. I contacted you yesterday on your Twitter for bringing it up.
Oh, I
your
saw it,
pension.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
John McDonnell has also brought it up, but there has been no official line on this. Seems massive loophole that affects thousands of new starters.
Go on, Louise.
Well, you know, the loopholes are being exposed because policy is being made so quickly. So there's a huge loophole for the benefits for the self-employed, because if you've been self-employed since April the 6th of last year, again, there's no help for you. So I would suggest you could go to your last employer, but that is humiliating. It can be difficult if it's a competitor of your new company, and even more so if your new company actually wants to keep you. I have no other help other than universal credit and make a fuss and try to seek policy change.
I mean, fuss is a good, to an extent. Twitter and social media are bubbling with this thing. And it may be that Rishi Sunak or whatever look at it and think, OK, wait, we've got to sort this out. Storm.
We're going to speak to Helen now from Surrey, who has a question. Helen, what's your question for Louise?
Well, what happens if it's actually a very similar situation to the previous caller. My company want to keep me on. I haven't lost my job. I'm on unpaid leave. And I can't go back to my previous employer because I was made redundant and my job doesn't exist. So very similar to the previous lady on what can we do to help our new companies who want to keep us on.
So limited, really. The problem at the moment is you're not going to get, apart from in certain sectors of the economy, food retailing, fruit picking, vegetable picking, you're probably not going to get a new job. You know, companies are not hiring. You know, hiring plans are on hold. So trying to get a new job in this current environment, other than certain sectors, is going to be incredibly difficult. Financially, do you have any savings? Do you have any cash you can rely on?
No. So I've applied for job seekers, which I've been told I probably won't get because I'm not actively seeking to get a new job. Because I have one, they just can't pay me. And also universal credit doesn't seem to be an option either. And no savings, unfortunately.
Can I ask,
left a bit.
Helen, let me ask Louise a question about your case, which is this. If, let's say Helen worked for a cinema, Louise, and the cinema says, OK, we're giving you unpaid leave. Louise, can't she say to the cinema, hang on, furlough me? Because then I can go to the government and get 80% of my pay. I mean, why is her employer not doing that?
So they should be furloughing you. But of course, you have this restriction of the 28th of February. So if you were hired after the 28th of February, by the government's own rules, you cannot be furloughed.
I see.
So what needs to happen is the policy rules need to change. The problem with the government making policy up so quickly is they come up with these rules, and then when you start to test them by applying, you realise there are a whole load of people missed out. This is the problem with making policy up literally day by day.
Okay,
and what we need to hope for is the Chancellor will change the rules.
Okay, Helen, thank you so much. And Kate and others, loads coming in on this and really aware of the problem here. Storm.
Now, you should never out a lady's age, but I'm going to here because it's appropriate to the question. So, Jean, she's 88 from London. And Jean, you have a question for Louise.
Yes, hello, Louise. I have savings in NS&I. And what worries me, with all the money that the government are having to find, can they take money from NS&I when this is all over, as it's a government scheme?
That's premium bonds, is it, basically, Jean?
No, they're income bonds.
OK, sorry, Louise.
You will be absolutely fine with your income bonds from the national savings certificates. You will be absolutely fine. You'll get your money. If you had savings in a bank, I'm afraid that's not good news because interest rates are being cut to almost zero. And if you have savings in the stock market, you will also be suffering. So for those lucky enough to have pensions based on their salary, they're fine. But most of us don't have pensions based on our salary. We have pensions where you put the money into the stock market and the valuations of those have collapsed. But no, national savings certificates, you'll be absolutely fine.
Is that okay, Jean?
That's very reassuring. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Cherry. Bye. Sarah, you know anyone in this situation who's in the gap between two jobs?
No, but I know several people who've just stopped, in one case 20 years of paid employment, moved on to self-employment. In fact, I've got two friends in that position, and one of them's been self-employed for 6 months, another for a year, and they had employed jobs for years for that, and they've been told that can't be taken into account.
Yeah.
So this is another big gap in the policy. Anyone who's been self-employed since the 6th of April last year gets nothing. Nada. Absolutely nothing. And again, this is another gap where the Chancellor needs to go back and look at how he wrote the policy.